Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us for our 11th grade Parent Institute preparing for your senior year. Can you believe your babies are seniors next year? We're super excited to kick this off. So here is our agenda. We have a big agenda with ton of information. Hopefully it is not too much information overload, but that's why we will share these slides with you and this recording so you can always look back at all of this information. But before we begin, we always do want to start with our mission and our vision at E3 Civic High, and that is to engage, educate, and empower our learning community to be caring, passionate, lifelong learners and civic leaders who are prepared for college, workforce, and life. And then we have our graduate profiles. By the time your babies graduate next year, our hope is that they are civically engaged, a literacy communicator, creative and innovative, career competitive, and globally engaged. We have some great examples of our graduate profiles right here in your class, and we can't wait to see them succeed next year and see all the great things that they do. So now I'm going to hand it over to Dean Portillo to talk about our senior year events. So she gets to do all the fun stuff with our seniors. So take it away, Dean Portillo.
Good afternoon, and we're so excited to finally see your babies join the senior year. After all these years, 12 years of education, they're at the end of high school. So I'm just going to kind of give you a quick overview of what typically happens during senior year when it comes to those extracurricular activities. But please know that because we're still at the tail end of the pandemic, a lot of these just different activities are tentative and we still don't have solid information. So I'm going to do my best to just give you a rundown so that you know what to expect. And once I have more detailed information, then we'll share with everyone. So to begin, the senior class usually will have class officers, which makes up of the senior council. The senior council is a group of scholars who work specifically on senior activities. So they're in charge of the prom, of grad night, and of coming up with any additional activities that the senior class wants to have. And so the way these senior officers are elected is through the voting that'll happen at the end of the month. So any senior that is interested in either one of these roles will fill out a form, will have some recommendations, they'll prepare a speech, and at the end of the month, they'll present to their class. And then the voting process will begin and we'll establish a president, a vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And once we start in August again or September, they will get to start to work on all of these different activities that they would like to see happening for their senior year. Senior portraits. So this year for your seniors, we are going to be using LifeTouch photography. You will get more information as we get closer to senior year, and it'll be coming from LifeTouch. So you can go ahead and check them out if you'd like to, but just be aware that the information will come out at a later date. So what to expect in regards to senior costs. So senior portraits will really depend on the package that you select. And you can select one picture, you can select a whole package, and LifeTouch will provide that information for you. We also have Jostens, who's in charge of memorabilia for seniors. So you can buy those sweatshirts that say class of 2022. You can purchase shirts, and those are different options that you'll be able to purchase through Jostens. You can always click there and you can find our school E3. And it'll give you kind of some information on what the prices were for this year, and that way you can kind of look at and decide what you're interested in purchasing for the following year. They're the ones that also do the save the dates for graduation and announcements. So you can take a look at jostens.com and look at E3 Civic High. The cap and gown is also purchased through Jostens, and as we get more information, we'll share that as well. Prom. So these are some of the prices that have been charged per class. So depending on the funds that they have, that's how much we charge for prom. So if you look, we have the class of 2018, 2019, there were different prices because they fundraise differently. This year, the class of 2021 is actually going free to prom. So it all really depends on how much you fundraise. Grad night typically runs, it's a park hopper and transportation. It'll run from anywhere from $190 to $220. Also, again, dependent on the fundraising, right? So fundraising can be done and allocated towards transportation. And then the yearbook is basically $35 or up. So it just depends how much it's going to be running for the current year. All seniors will have a senior agreement. It will be shared at a later date. Basically, the senior agreement will cover all of the expectations that as a senior you have to make sure you comply with. The senior agreement doesn't stipulate anything that you don't already know or need in order to graduate. It just ensures that you are fully aware of the requirements and that you're ready to go when it comes time for prom, Fitch Day, grad night, and that you're, when you hit senioritis, because we know that comes around pretty quickly towards January, February, that you have something that'll kind of guide you and remind you, this is what I need to make sure I'm doing in order to complete my senior year and still be able to participate in these activities. So you'll get this senior agreement as we get closer to September. And that is all from me. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at cayala@e3civichigh.com. Other than that, we're excited and you'll be getting more information soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Portillo. Lots to look forward to, and we're very excited. I'm going to really start about what the goal is of senior year, and we're really working hard to help our scholars really move on to their viable path forward. So that's just not graduating high school and sitting around and maybe getting a job at McDonald's. We want them to get the training they need or the college they need to be able to go and get a great job to help support themselves. We know San Diego is a very expensive place to live in. So we want to make sure that they have that viable path forward. You're going to be hearing that a lot. And we are working with the San Diego workforce, and Miss Sarah Burns is coming in, and you'll be hearing a lot from her in the next year. But she's really kind of teaching us a little bit more about what the career sectors in San Diego, what they're looking for, which ones are really high in demand, and what kind of training our scholars need. It's not always a 4-year degree. It could be certifications. It could be an apprenticeship. So I kind of like to look at it like the factory. Like when I went to high school, I grew up expecting, okay, we're going to go to high school, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get that degree, and now I'm going to have a career and I'm going to be successful. And it usually does not work that way. I graduated college and I sat there at my mom's house for 6 months going, okay, what do I do next? So what it really looks like, I think, is kind of all over the place. You know, there is no one way or one path that our scholars can reach success. They can graduate high school, they can go on to an industry certification, they could go to a 2-year and then to a 4-year, or they can go directly to a 4-year. So there's all kinds of different paths that are available to them. So we just want to make sure that they know all of their options and kind of how to get there. And it's not just as simple as going to college and getting the career. And then we're really going to talk to our scholars, our seniors especially, about what success looks like to them. What is it going to look like at graduation? What about 5 years later? What about 10 years later? Like, what do they see themselves as? Do they see them being able to support their own household? Do they see themselves being able to support a family? And we all know that that's going to take a lot of work to get there. And then we're also going to talk about Your Next Move. It's one of the websites that the San Diego workforce uses, and it's amazing. I've linked it into this PowerPoint, which I'm going to share out. But we're really going to talk with our scholars about taking the RIASEC assessment to understand their career and their personality types and what they love. So they're going to want to put together what they love, look at the labor market and what they can be paid for, what employers need, so the skills and the abilities that employers needs, and what do you need? What do you want out of a job? And we're going to put those all together and really try to find a focus and a successful path for them. And we're really going to look at trying to be able to be self-sufficient in San Diego. And they did a calculation, and self-sufficiency, the line, in order to be self-sufficient in San Diego, you have to earn at least $17.65 per hour. And that is the minimum. That's like without Netflix, that's without shopping, that's without going to the movies. So we know like that is above minimum wage. So they need to be able to find a career path that makes more money than that self-sufficiency line. Are there any questions so far? Okay. We're also going to talk with our scholars about their options. It's not just a 2-year community college. It's not just a 4-year university, which are great options. 2-year community colleges have certificate programs. They have trades. There's a lot of great things that 2-year community colleges offer, as well as 4-year universities. I went to a 4-year university. I learned a lot. I have a degree from a 4-year university. I went on to get my master's. There's also the military, which provides free college after the military and great skills that you can learn, to move you into a career. There's also a ton of apprenticeship programs, and I've linked the 3 popular ones in San Diego here on this presentation. If you want to look at it for your scholar, for yourself, for a family member or a friend, there's great opportunities in apprenticeship programs where they can go in, get paid as an apprenticeship, and make more than me in a year. So there's a lot of great opportunities. And then there's also the San Diego Continuing Education Career Pathways. They're actually going to come and talk to our seniors next week, and they offer free certification programs in HVAC, in there's CNA, there's what else, plumbing and welding, and there's a ton of free programs for anybody over 18. So like I said, I linked all of these, and these are just some of the options. All options are open. We just want to make sure our scholars, when they leave E3, they have a viable path. They are going somewhere. They're going to be able to be self-sufficient. So I know this is going to be information overload. I get it. Every time you talk to me, it's going to be a lot of information. But where do you find all this? I post a lot of information in the class of 2022 Google Classroom. So all of your scholars do have access to this. It's the class of 2022 College and Career Google Classroom. So I usually clunk it up. So there's all kinds of college information, financial aid, scholarships. So if you're looking for a place, have your scholar log into their Google Classroom and take a look. I also email quite a bit. I'm sure that you've received my emails. Any scholarships I get through any like cool resources or programs, I really like to send that out so that way you can take advantage of it if you want. So a lot of information is emailed. We always tell our scholars to check their email every day. I would say at least once in the morning, once in the evening, so that way you don't miss out on an opportunity. So now I'm going to move on. I know I'm talking a lot, but that's what's going to happen. To senior year course expectations. This is your last year of high school. This is a really cool year. You make the best of it because you're only going to get one senior year. Here's our senior required courses. Most of your scholars will be required to take these courses. So English, they have 2 options. They can take the CSU ERWC English, and that's just the California State University Expository Reading and Writing Curriculum. So that's the basic 12th grade English, or they can choose to take AP English Literature. So those are their 2 options. They were able to choose that last week. They also need to take their US government, which is 1 semester, and their economics, which is their 2nd semester. And then the 2 other required courses their senior year is their design thinking capstone project and their workforce development, which is their internship. For most seniors, these are the required courses. However, every senior is different. You might need to take a PE, you might need to take another math. And that's where I come in. I make sure to evaluate their transcripts and ensure that they are taking all of the classes they need to graduate on time. Okay, any questions about the required courses? Okay. And then we also have college prep. So 2 or 3 years ago, Miss Cologne has moved on to Madison High School, but we created a course called College Prep, and that is for all of our seniors. This will happen on Fridays. And this is really a time for the scholars to get their plan together, to really focus on what they want to do. So you're going to be using the college prep time for their future. So it's college planning. There's a lot of presentations. We invite a lot of the colleges out to talk about their school. Some of them have application workshops. And then it's also work time. That's where they can go into smaller workshops and complete their college applications. They can complete their financial aid. They can complete scholarships, get essay help. It's really work time for their scholars. The requirements, though, for graduation and for college prep is to submit at least one college application or equivalent. And I say equivalent, meaning an apprenticeship application or an application for the continuing ed at San Diego. They also have to submit at least one scholarship. They have to submit their financial aid. Those are the three main things we focus on in the first semester. They also have to attend class regularly because that's where all that senior information is coming out. So you want to make sure that you're attending that class and taking advantage of those resources. And at the end of the year, that's what Miss Paula is going to talk about as well, is we do have our POLs, our presentations of learning. So that's a big piece of the second semester, is completing those POLs. And that's like the last part of the college prep. Does anybody have any questions about college prep? Okay. So just some tips. I talked to Miss Lewis, who is our government and econ learning facilitator. Oh, it's updating again. I'm sorry. What is happening? Okay, you guys all see it? My computer keeps on updating. But Miss Lewis, really, and myself, we came up with a few tips. A lot of seniors kind of let their work pile up and do it at the end. But that's the most fun part, is this time of your senior year. So our tips are to do your work on time, submit your work on time. Don't put yourself in a hole where you're trying to scratch out and do all your work at the last minute, because you can't attend prom or winter formal or any of those fun events if you have an IP, an in progress grade. We definitely want you to have a planner or a calendar and write down your to-do list every day. And we also want you to know that senioritis is real. I had senioritis, Paula has senioritis, but it's something that you're gonna have to power through. These grades, these classes, your future, that's your responsibility. So you have to find a way to be able to deal with the senioritis. And then senior year is also an emotional roller coaster. There's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of ups and downs, and it's completely normal. Reach out for help when you need it. We are all here to help support your scholars. And then another thing, like during senior year, that's when we start kind of, taking away the hand holding. So we'll treat you as an adult if you act like an adult, like I'm not going to tell you the answer, I'll guide you to the answer. So as long as you're doing what you need to do, you are an adult in high school, we're going to give you that respect back. So now we're going to talk a little bit about our senior year timeline, what to expect starting now. And then we're going to hear a little bit from Miss Paula Bailon. So what you want to do this summer to start out with is really research your options. Think about what's your path and how you're going to get there. Because the fall of your senior year, you're going to be talking to me and I'm going to ask you, okay, so what do you want to do after high school? And I need an answer, because you've had all summer to really think about it. You've been prepared. And then also use the summer to research colleges, programs, application requirements. Go visit colleges if you can. And if you can't, all colleges now have a virtual tour that they can attend. And I really want them to narrow down their list. Maybe they have 20 colleges that they're thinking about, or 20 programs. Really narrow it down. You want to think about, okay, what schools do I match with? What are schools that I think I can get into? You want to have a few of those. Then maybe some reach. You're like, you know what? I really want to go to UCLA, but I don't know if I'll get in. Let's try it. You never know. And then some safety schools, just in case you want to have a backup, which is usually for our scholars, one of the community colleges around here. And then also in the summer, you can always do preparation for the SAT or ACT. You can always start on your essays or UC Insight questions. It's a great time to really sit down and get those essays started. You can create your resume. You can join a program or volunteer. And really, it's a time to get organized and ready to apply to colleges or to apprenticeship programs or to the military or whatever your plan is. Now we're going to go to fall. This is the meat and potatoes. This is what you're really looking for, September to November. So September, we're going to start out. There's a lot of information that's given in September. If you want to take the ACT or SAT over again, you can register for that. You're really going to narrow down and finalize your college list, organize that list, and understand all of the deadlines so you can prioritize. If you need letters of recommendation, you're going to want to request those in September. You're going to finalize your personal statements and again, try to visit some college campuses that you're thinking about. October is go time. Most applications open up in October. We're also hoping, crossing our fingers, regulations allow us to offer the SAT school day in October. We're aiming for October 13th. That is the day of the PSAT. And we want to offer the SAT for free on site to all of our seniors. October 1st, that is when financial aid opens up. And we'll talk about financial aid in a bit. You're going to apply for your FSA ID, and then you're going to want to submit your financial aid application, whether it's the FAFSA or the DREAM Act. And I'll get into that in a little bit. And then work on your 4-year applications. The fall is really a push for 4-year universities if that's your path. And even if you don't know if that's your path, I always say, let's apply. You never know what you're going to want to do in the spring. So always try to put those applications in if you think it's even going to be a little bit of an option. Then November is really like submission. That's when you're going to be submitting really the UC and the CSU applications. Their deadlines are November 30th. Last year, they extended them a week or two because of COVID, but they usually are due November 30th. And that's a big deadline to keep in mind. And then it's the last chance to take the ACT or the SAT for Cal State, but they are not going to accept it this year, so you don't have to worry about that. And that is in Spanish. And now we're really looking at the winter. Unfortunately, that guy, we don't get to freeze like that here. I just thought it was funny because I'm from Chicago and that's what I looked like in Chicago in the winter. But December is really the last chance if you're really wanting to take that SAT or ACT. That's when you really want to, that's the last test that a lot of colleges will take. If you did take your SAT or ACT, ensure that those test scores are sent to each campus that you applied to. And then at this point, you've already pretty much applied to a lot of those colleges. After you apply, those colleges will send the scholar a link on how to create their online portal. Every college is different, and we're going to go through a lot more of this information in the fall when it's a little bit more relevant. And then you're really going to want to focus on scholarships. A lot of the scholarships come out November, December, January, and February. And then the end of the semester happens at the end of January. So you're really going to want to keep those grades up. One thing to keep in mind for the UCs and the CSUs especially, if you get a D or an F on your transcript, so either semester 1 or semester 2 of your senior year, they have every right to rescind their admissions to you. So say a scholar gets into SDSU, for example, and gets a D in advisory. SDSU then can tell your scholar, well, you got a D, you didn't hold up your end of the bargain, I'm going to take away your admissions. So it's really important if you're the 4-year university bound to keep your grades up. They will request transcripts and they will check. And they usually won't tell you this information until July, until you're out of high school and ready to go to college. So you definitely don't want that to happen to you. But usually in January or February, acceptances, financial aid award letters start rolling in, and then the big San Diego Foundation scholarship is due in February. And it really slows down in the spring because these admissions decisions are starting to roll out. February, March, April, that's when you're going to hear from the 4-year universities. And you're also going to get financial aid award letters. So that way you can find out how much you're going to have to pay for college. So it's a big time to really, it's a big decision-making time. You're still going to want to visit campuses that you're considering. And then at this point, you're really going to want to start making a decision on which college you want to go to. And at this time as well, the community college registration starts opening up. So then at E3, we'll start having community college workshops. A big date to keep in mind here is if you are wanting to go to a 4-year university, You usually have to accept your admissions decision by May 1st. May 1st is decision day. That's a big date to keep in mind. Some colleges are different. Some colleges will have June 1st, some colleges will have August 1st, but our decision day is usually May 1st. And in May, you're really just completing all that enrollment for your campus. You're accepting financial aid, you're keeping your grades up, and you're getting ready for graduation and prom. And then we have summer. Welcome to adulting. You're graduating. So you really want to make sure that everything is complete for college. You've requested your final transcripts. You've kept your grades up. You've kept your part of the bargain. So we're going to graduate you and you are going to go off to the big bad world. But it doesn't stop there, because July is you're really attending college orientations. You're registering for classes. If you're moving, you're preparing to move onto campus. But the big thing is you want to make sure that you're calling financial aid, you're calling the admissions office to ensure that they have everything that they need for you. Okay. I know that was a lot. It was a big timeline, but at least you know what to expect next year. So I'm going to turn it over to Miss Paula Bailon. She is a senior. So do you want to introduce yourself and let them know where you're going in the fall?
Hi everyone, my name is Paula Bailon and I will be attending UCSD next fall of 2021. Man, after that presentation, it kind of got real. I almost started crying. I will say that honestly, like Miss Jennings said, senior year is filled with up and downs. I mean, the best thing I could tell you is definitely keep your grades up, and keep the deadlines in like check, make sure you're doing everything on time. Don't wait till the last minute. Make sure you're turning in everything, like let's say, you know everything is due on November 31st, like the decisions for 4 years. Don't wait on November 31st, because trust me, a lot of people did, and the like computer crashed. So I would say definitely wait. Do your stuff in advance. Make your personal essays personal to you. Understand that it's an emotional time for us. I know, like, a lot of us may get rejections, may get acceptances, but again, we're putting ourselves in a piece of paper. That doesn't mean it's your worth. It's not who you are. Don't doubt yourself. And I would just recommend you guys just being there for your scholars throughout this entire college process. It is a emotional time, full of excitement, full of downfalls. It's a roller coaster, I swear. I will say, make sure they apply for the FAFSA 100%. 100%. Apply to as many scholarships as you can, like literally, like, I don't know, 1,000 if you can. I will definitely say that, your teachers are there for you if you need them. Everyone is there for you. And even I'm there for you if your scholar needs to. I'm here. Honestly, no matter what path your scholar chooses, as long as they have a purpose in life and they know why they chose it, that's all that matters. And I mean, it's their last year. They should enjoy it. So, yeah.
Thank you, Paul. If anybody has any questions for her, you can definitely chat her, and we'll stick around after the presentation as well. So let me move on. I did see a chat about SAT or ACT testing. It's a little bit different this year. Here are the two different tests. So we usually focus on the SAT. Both are really similar. The difference is ACT has a science section, and they're both scored a little bit differently. The highest score you can get on the SAT is 1600, and the ACT is 36. Both have the same kind of costs. You have to register for the exam. If you are going to take the exam, like say on a Saturday, like we're hosting the SAT at E3 on Saturday, you would have to actually register on your either College Board account for the SAT or your ACT student account for the ACT. Okay. However, many colleges are not considering the SAT or ACT scores for the fall 2022 admission due to COVID. So I know the CSUs and the UCs are not going to take the SAT or ACT. However, some colleges will, and some scholarships will. So that's kind of, it's good to have just in case. And that's why we're still going to try to offer the SAT school day. And right now, it still is a graduation requirement for E3. For the class of 2021, we waived that because it was almost impossible for us to be able to host the SAT at school and for them to all register and take it in time. If you do want to take it, and if you do qualify for a fee waiver, there are fee waivers available for both exams. Just have your scholar reach out to me, and I can make sure that they can we can see if they're eligible, and I can make sure they get their fee waiver. Okay, and so here's the next, the Spanish part. Here are the upcoming test dates, and I also linked this as well. I linked a nice little handout for you. I scratched out the last test date that CSU or UC will accept because that is no longer true because they're not accepting any ACTs this year. Okay, the one I really recommend for your scholars to take if they're really wanting to, maybe take that June 28th exam, the SAT. Then they get their baseline, and if they want to take it again, then they could perhaps take the October or the November exam. That's usually what I tell scholars to do. That way, they get their scores June 28th from the June 28th one. They can go on to Khan Academy and do some test prep. Oh my gosh. Sorry, my computer is like, okay, I'm back. But yeah, they can do some test prep and then take it again in the fall. So now we're going to get into more college and financial aid information, what and how much. And I'm going to briefly go over this because I will go over this more in depth in the fall. But this kind of gives you an example of what kind of colleges, universities are out there. So we have the public universities. These are like the CSUs, the UCs. Every state has their own public university. So if you go over to Arizona, it would be Arizona State University, Northern Arizona University. They usually offer 4-year bachelor's degrees and master's degrees. They're really funded by public means. The state sets their policies, and they're usually the cheaper option of the 4-year universities. And then there are private universities. Again, they offer the 4-year bachelor's degrees. However, they're independent. They're generally smaller. However, they're generally more expensive. So this would be like the USD, the University of San Diego, that beautiful campus up on Mission Hills. They usually cost a lot more, but they offer a lot more scholarships to cover the costs. Okay, so don't let sticker price scare you, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then there's community colleges. We have a great network of community colleges around here. They offer 2 years associate's degrees, trades, certificates, even some are starting to offer bachelor's degrees. And this is the most affordable option. Right now, community colleges in California are free with the Promise Grant, as long as you go through all of the application and you qualify for it. And you can either go to a community college for associate's degree, certificate, a trade, or preparation to get into one of the 4-year universities. So now we'll break it down. Here are California state universities. There are 23 across California. Our closest one is San Diego State. And basically the admissions requirements are that you've completed your A through G requirements with a C or higher, and they're going to look at your GPA. They used to look at your test scores, but not anymore. So please note that your A through G requirements and your GPA is what they are going to look at for acceptance. That is it. So they're really not looking at your activities. They're not looking at anything else. They don't require an essay. There is a fee waiver for this one. I believe the application fee is about $75 per campus. But there is a fee waiver. It's embedded into the application. There is one application for all 23 campuses. This application usually opens up October 1st, and the deadline is usually November 30th. And that is the Spanish part. And then we get to the UCs, the University of California system. So there are 9 campuses across California. Our closest one is UC San Diego. Their admissions requirements are a lot more holistic. They're looking at everything. They want to know that you've completed your A through G requirements. They're going to look at your GPA. They're no longer looking at your SAT or ACT scores for next school year. But they really want to read your personal insight questions. I linked them here in the presentation. There's 8 prompts. You pick 4, and they're short 350-word essays. And this is really how they get to know the scholar. They really want to know about you. They want to know things that aren't in your application. So this is probably the most important thing to really work on and to prepare for the UCs. They also want to see your extracurricular activities. Have they been sustained throughout 2 or 3 years, or did you just join your senior year because you needed something to put on your application? And they're also looking at volunteer service. So they're really looking at everything, and they really want to know about you. Again, the fee waiver is included in the online application. There is one application for all 9 UCs. The price is about $75 again for each campus. This one's a little different. It opens up on October 1st. So you can start your application, get everything in there. This application usually takes a bit longer. However, you cannot submit until November 1st. Okay, so you can start it, but once November 1st comes, you can press submit all the way up until November 30th. Okay, there's the Spanish. And then we have our community colleges. There are 110 community colleges in California. 8 of them are in San Diego. They are all fantastic. You can earn credits to transfer to a 4-year university. You can earn your associate's degrees, certificates, some bachelor's, and this is the cheapest option with that Promise Grant, which basically gives you free tuition for 2 years. You can apply to all 110 community colleges with the cccapply.org. And this application usually opens up in the spring, usually around February or March. Okay, and then we have the WUI. I like saying that. That's the Western Undergraduate Exchange. Basically, here you see on this picture all of the red states on the western part of the country. That is called the WUI. And depending on the college, there's about 150 participating WUI institutions. You can attend, let's say, a school in Arizona. So if you want to go to Northern Arizona University, which you would normally pay out-of-state tuition, instead of paying out-of-state tuition, you pay 150% of the resident tuition. So let's say for an Arizona resident, tuition is $10,000. For you living in California to go to Northern Arizona University, it's only going to be $15,000 instead of full out-of-state tuition. Does that make sense? So it's a little bit cheaper than an out-of-state option. You can get a ton more information on this website that I linked. And this is just varied by campus. Some campuses are in the WUI, some are not. And then you would apply to that campus, and there's various ways to apply for the WUI. And then we have 2 more applications. It looks like this one's just in Spanish, but I can read it. We have the Common Application, which is an application that has over 800 universities that use this application for students to apply to their university. It's throughout the United States and the world. And it's just a great way to complete one application to apply to various colleges. Not every college uses the Common Application, but again, I linked it here so you can kind of search around. And then there's the Common Black College Application. So if you're looking at going to an HBCU, a historically Black college and university, there's one application and you can apply to over 50 HBCUs for only $35. So this is a great route to get some of those applications in. Now, after I talked about all that, here is the breakdown of cost. Don't be like that little cat, like, OMG, it's so expensive. I just want to give you, this is just the sticker value. So UCSD, if you're looking at going to UCSD, living on campus, if you see that first like little column, you're looking at $33,270 per year. That's not for all 4 years, it's per year. If you're just looking at going to UCSD and not living on campus, that's $14,679. That makes sense? For SDSU, it's a bit cheaper option. Just tuition and fees are just over $8,000. But if you want to live on campus, oh, I made an error there. It's not 231. It's 23,000 or it's 31,484. Sorry, it's been a long day. So if you add in living on campus at SDSU, it gets fairly expensive. And then we go to USD. That's our private school. As you can see, the tuition is almost $56,000, and that's without housing. If you add in housing, you're looking at over 70,000 per year. And then we go to City College, which that's the cheapest option with the Promise Grant. You're basically paying zero. The only thing that you would have to pay for are like supplies, books, things like that, transportation. But don't let this scare you, because all of these schools offer grants, scholarships, all kinds of help. Like if you qualify for those Cal grants, you basically can go to SDSU for free, not living on campus, but it would cover tuition. Like Paula, how much are you paying to go to UCSD and live on campus?
I'm paying nothing.
Nothing. Because she qualifies for Cal Grants, she qualifies for the CASP, that's the Chancellor's Associate Scholarship Program, which gives her $10,000 per year. She qualified for the Blue and Gold Grant. So with all of those together, she can go to UCSD and live on campus for free. Okay.
Um, and to add on to what Miss Drenning said, it's really important that your scholars definitely keeps their grades up, because like if they don't qualify for those grants, they're able to qualify for them through scholarships and
Mhm.
other opportunities, because like a lot of the colleges also offer like scholarships and grants if you have good grades, or for community service or anything like that. So that's why it's really important too.
Yeah, thank you. So that brings us to the next point. How do you pay for it? Who has $30,000 in their pocket? I don't. I wish I did. So really, you're going to be using that financial aid application for grants. So that is need-based money without repayment. That is free money. You're also going to be, there's scholarships out there. Again, that is free money. So that's either merit-based or performance-based. So sometimes colleges will grant you a scholarship just based on your GPA and your SAT scores, and sometimes you have to apply for it. And then there's work study, so that's need-based campus jobs. So that wouldn't go towards like orientate or the tuition. You're really going to be working on campus and earning money for like those supplies, maybe for transportation, maybe for food. So it's just pocket money, and that's through the you can get qualified through the FAFSA. And then if you need to, which is the last resort, is taking out federal loans. So those are fixed low interest loans that you can take out, but that must be repaid. And in order to qualify for these are the two financial aid applications. There's two different ones, both do the same thing, depending on what you're qualified for. The FAFSA, that is the free application for federal student aid. You should never pay to submit that. There was some kind of website out there before that it would charge you $70 to submit. That is not the FAFSA. So make sure it's the free application for federal student aid. And then there's the DREAM Act. So if the scholar has a social security number, the scholar is going to want to submit the FAFSA. Okay. If the scholar does not have a social security number or is a DACA student, they're going to want to submit the DREAM Act application. If the scholar is not sure, we always say start with the DREAM Act application, because the DREAM Act will lead you through some questions and they will say, yes, this is the application you need to, or no, I think you need to submit the FAFSA. Does that make sense? Both applications will do the same thing. It's just for financial aid for college. Both open up on October 1st. That is the date you're going to want to remember. That's when financial aid opens up for you. You're going to have to submit your financial aid every single year that you're going to college. It's not just a one-time application. It is every single year before you go to that college. And it opens up October 1st. The deadline in order to be qualified for California state grants is March 2nd. Okay, so there's a huge window. We really push for let's get this done by Thanksgiving break. So that way you can move on, you can have a nice Thanksgiving break, you can have a nice winter break without worrying about all of this. And then I linked the two websites. So they have a lot of great information on both websites to kind of check out. They have a lot of great resources as well. So how do you prepare for financial aid? Can't really. The one thing is like you can start a savings account, because there's always going to be extra money that you're going to need, whether it's to pay for supplies, to pay for food, transportation. So really starting a savings account and keep that money aside. You can also learn how financial aid can help your family. There's the FAFSA forecaster, which I linked here. You can also learn about college costs. every single college has a net price calculator. So usually you can click on there, you can put your family income, and they'll give you an estimate of what they think that you would pay to go to that college. I've linked a bunch of net price, like a bunch of a site where you can find each net price calculator, or I just Google like UCSD net price calculator, and the first thing that pops up is their net price calculator. Another thing that you can do is keep your financial documents in a safe place. Really start pulling aside. And some of those documents that you see on the right-hand side is your social security cards for both the students and parents. Always make sure that your name is spelled correctly on those cards and your social security number is what you think it is. I've had some examples that the student was putting in all their information and the FAFSA kept on getting bounced back. And then I asked her to bring in her social security card and her name was actually spelled wrong on her social security card. So then she had to go back and submit the application with that wrong name because all of your financial, it's all going to be verified by IRS and the Social Security Administration. Okay, so just really pull that out, make sure it is what you think it is. Parents, you're going to need your 2020 tax return. That's the tax information that they're going to be asking you for come October 1st. Keep your bank statements, information on untaxed income, and really have a list of colleges being considered. The applications don't take that long as you have all this information in front of you. It could take 20, 30 minutes. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry again, my computer's going nuts. Okay, we're back. We're almost done. So on top of all of that stuff that I just threw at you, there's also other college costs, like application fees. It could be, sometimes they're free, sometimes they're $25. I've seen colleges have $125 application fees just to submit. If you are eligible for a fee waiver, usually colleges have fee waivers. Sometimes it's really easy to find. Sometimes it's very difficult to find. If you can't find it, just ask me and I can try to help you, okay? And then if they want your official SAT or ACT test scores that you have to send from College Board or ACT, that could be $12 to $15 per test score per school you're sending it to. And then once you decide on the college, especially four-year colleges, they need an enrollment deposit to save your seat. Sometimes it could be $100, sometimes it can be $500. If you've applied with a fee waiver, sometimes they will waive that. So you always call and ask. And then if you're living on campus, there's another deposit, usually $100 to $500. They even ask you for an orientation deposit. So there's a lot of money that comes out of your pockets in the front end. And none of this can be used, like you cannot use your financial aid for any of this. Okay. So the big thing is like costs add up quickly, but with loans, grants, and all that stuff, college can really be affordable, but there's always going to be a little bit of out-of-pocket costs. Okay. Any questions so far? We just got through the bulk of it. No? The chat going good, Paula? Okay. So here's just some upcoming events. You're going to see a lot of me and hopefully there's going to be another counselor and I have a few interns that will be working next year. So there's going to be a lot of resources available for you. So save the dates. Here are some important dates to look forward to. We have orientation the week before school starts. The tentative time is Thursday, August 26th at 5 p.m. And then all of these other events are really for you to help your scholars with their viable pathway. So I'll lead a workshop, College 101, which really brings you through more in depth with those applications, with financial aid, to really help you out with that. And that's October 7th at 5 p.m. Then we always lead a senior college workshop on a Saturday. The last 2 years have been, or no, the last year was virtual. Hopefully we can be in person this year. And that's really a time for your scholars to come on in. We usually have our SDSU rep, our UCSD rep. We have a lot of representatives to help us with the FAFSA and the DREAM Act. So it's really a working session. And usually I've had scholars apply to over 4 colleges and get their entire FAFSA done just in that day. So it's a big help for our scholars and parents to come in and just have us available to ask questions as you're applying. So that's the big fall push. Then we'll meet again in January, and that's really like the big financial aid, like what are loans, grants, getting into award letters, what they look like, because everything is very complicated in the college world. So hopefully I can help demystify that for you. And then in March and spring, as soon as those community college applications open up, we're going to have our senior community college workshop. And we usually have representatives from San Diego City College, Mesa, Grossmont, and Southwestern on site. And it's really kind of walking around, helping you apply to those colleges, asking questions, going through the next steps. And then in April, that's usually the last time you see me like in a presentation part. But it's really about award letters and making that decision, because award letters can be really tricky to look at. Paula can tell you that. So it's really kind of dissecting what the award letters mean, so that way you can figure out how much you're going to have to pay. And you can always make an appointment with me. I'm always available because I know this is a very difficult time. So I want to make sure that we're answering every question. And that leads us on to this: is every senior's path is going to be different. We understand that. We just want to support you and your senior going through this very long, difficult, and busy process. So always feel free to reach out to me to set up a family meeting. I'd be happy to help right now, either on Zoom. I've started to have a few meetings on campus. So I'm really there to help you. If you have any questions, if you get a weird email, forward it to me. I can help kind of demystify it, because it gets a little complicated. And then here's help for our seniors. We're always there to help before school, after school, during lunch. Fridays during college prep class time, that's the big bulk of the time that we can really help. We break up into little workshops so that the scholars can get help with whatever they need, whether they're applying for college applications, community colleges, financial aid, scholarships. So it's a big work time. We're also next year going to have weekday afternoon office hours, so they can schedule time just to kind of come into our college and career suite and get some applications done. Also during advisory, we have many presentations and workshops throughout the year with a ton of information. During fourth mod, during their DT and workforce time, we push into there sometimes to help them. And then any other time, if any of those other times don't work, they can always schedule an appointment for us. So the big thing is really taking advantage of these times, not waiting till the last minute, and to really engage and listen in all of these meetings. Because as much as I love helping the seniors, I also have 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, and I can't really drop everything anytime if there's an emergency, right? So I want to make sure that they're prepared and not missing any deadlines. So what can you do now? Michelle Obama, she's a big fighter in the college world. Is just really, the biggest thing is really thinking about what your path is, what it takes to get there. Where do you see yourself next year? And then researching those paths. If it's going to be college, research those colleges. If it's going to be an apprenticeship program, researching those programs. What do you need to do to apply? And then really identifying those admissions requirements for if it's a college, it's apprenticeship, if it's military, because they all have different requirements. They all have different deadlines. And then really making a list of your top choices, researching if you're looking at going to a 4-year or a 2-year, researching the different programs or majors. And then you can also start drafting those personal statements, because I will say senior year kicks off and it does not stop. It's very busy. So the more you get done before you start your senior year, the less stressed you're going to be, believe me. And then if you can over the summer, visit campuses either in person or virtually. If you're going to take the SAT or ACT, make sure you prep and register for that, and really keep your grades up. This 11th grade that's the last time you can impact your GPA before colleges see it, because they're not going to see your senior year grades. They're going to see what classes you're taking, but they're going to see all of your grades leading up. Okay, so this is the last grade. These are the last grades that their colleges are going to see. And then as parents, really gathering that tax information to prepare, making sure that you're ready to go for that financial aid application, and start preparing for your senior year costs. And now this is just a lot of resources for you. I'm going to send out the presentation tomorrow, so that way you have links to everything. There's a ton of information. The FAFSA has a really cool YouTube channel. So they have little videos to show you how to go through it. And these last two, this college access brochure and college checklist, I just got these from the San Diego County of Ed, and they are amazing. So please use all these resources. I will also start posting this on the Google Classroom, so it's saved there as well. And I think that's it. Whew, I'm tired. Does anybody have any questions after my big rant? You can feel free to chat. You can feel free to stick on. I'm gonna pause this.